Catus. Maximus here, this time with a little review of this PowerBuilt 3/8 inch drive anvil and a 1/4 inch ratchet body Roto-Head Ratchet. And that's really what this is. This is using a modern design, which I call a block and pawl roundhead design, and it seems to be what's essentially taken over roundhead ratchets. It's really a pretty good design. Whoever was originally came up with the patent obviously ran out. It's a very good system with a heart spring in it. This is a sealed head versus a quick release one. It definitely works pretty well. This also seems to be made by whoever's making a lot of these, or at least it's extremely similar. Although I do like the metal handle. If we compare it to, say, the Harbor Freight Icon 1/4 inch, we can see that it is indeed the same size. It really is a 3/8 inch anvil and a 1/4 inch body. I guess the one takeaway with these Roto-Head ratchets is I really like them. They're very useful in a variety of situations, such as you can go around, flip them over, go around. It's really handy. Once you get a bolt loose, you can go straight and ratchet like this or spin them around. They have another advantage, and I will say that the detent is more than reasonable on this PowerBuilt, is since you are pressing on the center line of the socket, you have an easier time. So if the socket's kind of stuck on something, you can push and be able to get it to hold up straight like so, and be able to provide pressure on it without it folding over. You do have to be a little bit careful, but once it's on a fastener, it's actually much easier to keep it on that fastener versus something like a more traditional flex head like this where it's offset. So if you push it, it ends up getting folded over, and it's really difficult to try to get it to get back on the fastener again. So I really do like that. This is an old Proto here, a 5257, so I'll have to say the detent's just as strong on this as it is on that Proto, so definitely pretty happy about that. It is not as small as the Titan Micro Roto-Head Ratchet, just to give you an idea, but it's still pretty darn small. If we take, say, the Icon 3/8 inch, we can see that it is just way, way smaller, just much more compact, much smaller unit. So really do appreciate that. So it truly is a 3/8 inch anvil in a 1/4 inch body. It is, of course, a little bit shorter than these, but when you have these comfort grips, they tend to make ratchets just a little bit longer. And actually, compared to the Icon, the casting, at least on the reverse lever, actually seems just a little bit smoother and a little bit nicer looking than, say, it is on the actual Icon unit. Otherwise, I have to say that the anvil is pretty darn tight in this head. It's not a bad little ratchet at all. Not a lot else to say. PowerBuilt's owned by Allied Tools, and they're trying to keep the brand around. Serious tools for serious work. Well, don't know about that, but at least it's halfway decent lifetime warranty. Chrome vanadium, made in Taiwan. Not a lot else to really say. There's a nice amount of friction there, so the head turns easily enough. At least this is out of the package, but without being loose. And one nice thing about Roto-Heads in the way that they're split, the split is, of course, so they can spread the tongs apart so they can actually get the pins of the head in there, is that they're super easy to adjust to get just the right amount of friction that you want. What's interesting is there's just a laser etch on this, otherwise there's no part numbers or markings whatsoever. So I find that just to be, a little bit oddball, but it's not the worst in the world. Anyway, as far as the head diameter, if we take, say, this Proto, which does have a pretty small diameter round head, we can see that it's just a little bit bigger than the Proto, but not by much. It's really pretty good. If we look at the height, it is definitely shorter than the Proto, so that's a big deal. That's what I liked about this, is just because it's an easier to use mechanism when it's in a smaller body. And they are pretty strong. I think on this one, what I would worry about the most is probably overstressing these pegs, just because it is a 3/8, and you will be inclined to put a little bit more force on it. But it just makes using a Roto-Head a little bit more handy. Let me open this up just so you can see how the mechanism works inside here. Whoop. And this is really how all they do. There's a heart spring. You can see why it's called a heart spring. And it just has two little tongs that fit into the block. And so when you are ratcheting it, the back side of the reverse lever here has just a little bump on it. And that little bump sits right in the core or right in that tip of the heart and pulls it. And so that's essentially what it's doing, is it's pulling the block this to this side or pulling the block to this side. When you pull it out, this is all it is. So that's why I call it block and pawl, because this is a real simple but just elegant design. It's really not a bad design. You just have a heavy duty block. It presses on the pawl, which just has a very slight curve on the back of it. And then the pawl, as you can see, is just absolutely massive relative to the ratchet size and the amount of surface area that it's engaging with inside the tool. We can see it's just really isn't a bad design at all. And so how it works is the spring just pulls it over, and then the block, the anvil itself, when it hits against the pawl, it just tries to drive it out through the side of the ratchet. So it actually offers a great deal of traction. And for how big it is, I really don't see these things really, slipping. And I'll just put a little bit of lube because, yes, this is yet another ratchet where they didn't put any lube whatsoever inside there. I just don't know what's going on with manufacturers. And the little trick to reassembling these is to make sure that this little peg, you got to kind of push it and make sure that it gets caught up under that heart spring. And that's all there is to it. Don't know how this video got so long, but that's all there really is to it. Once I got a little lube in there, it sounds a lot more solid, just way more solid. And the way the heart spring kind of pulls down on that little tab, when you do the reverse, it's really pretty definitive. Just a really nice snap action. So I really like this design. So it's not necessarily just about the PowerBuilt. What I thought was odd is that PowerBuilt's going ahead and getting these rebranded and selling them. Not a bad price, a little bit spendy, maybe. I think I paid around $12 or something for this. Is just the fact that this is like the only Roto-Head Ratchet that's powered by, or that is branded PowerBuilt. They don't have like any other standard size ones. This was just the one unit they decided to go with. So I thought that was a little bit strange. Anyway, I kind of like it, and I think it's actually one of the more budget of at least a decent brand and decent manufactured version of one of these 3/8" Anvils and a 1/4" body Roto-Head ratchets. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing and commenting. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.